All of this to say that we need to put our country and our people first. In the words of Laurier, the great motto must be Canada first, Canada last, Canada always.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Mr. Poilievre. That was an outstanding moment from the House of Commons yesterday, which you probably wouldn't see on the news because it wasn't during question period. Polly was making a speech about what's going on with Canada. And of course, nobody wants to talk about what's going on with Canada except maybe Pierre Poilievre and a couple of the premiers. Trudeau is in denial. Now, somebody took issue with me saying, oh, he's already lost it. Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about, is he actually breaking down psychiatrically, mentally? Is he becoming a Joe Biden basket case? 30 years ahead of his time? Literally. Yeah, like 30 years. What, Trudeau's 52, Biden's 83. Yeah, it's like he's... Anyway, when we come back, I'm going to get into this in a big way. So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist. Yes, please like this broadcast right now if you can. Share it with your friends and family. We're slowly getting our numbers back up after being dumped on after the election of President-elect Donald Trump. Don't ask me why YouTube would go crazy with censorship and suppression after the election. It's worse than it was before. And we're struggling to get those numbers back up. And it's just very frustrating. I hate to talk about this every day, but thanks for your support. And thanks for looking at our store where we got those great t-shirts and hoodies. I'll play the ad at the end of the program. And I apologize for coming on early this morning. I had to do it this way. And for the next couple of weeks, I'll try to stick to 10 a.m. I'm going to be traveling next week out west to Vancouver and Calgary. Actually, a stop in Saskatoon as well, on very, very personal stuff with my mother. So I don't mind sharing that with you. And so it's going to be a very hectic six days, whirlwind 6 days. I'm going to keep the broadcast going every day, as well as trying to keep writing. I might have to take a few days off from writing, but I'm going to, if I have to do this broadcast from hotel rooms, I do. I'm trying to keep it at 10 o'clock Eastern time. But like I say, I'm going to be in 3 different time zones over the next, starting next Thursday, starting a week today. And so I will do my best to keep it at 10 a.m. I know a lot of you are saying that's a great time because you're out on the West, Pacific Standard Time. And I lived a lot of my life on Pacific Standard Time. So I know 8 o'clock here, 8:30 here in Ottawa is 5:30 in Vancouver Island, BC. And it's very early. So I'm doing my best to keep it a little later. Sometimes you got to work around things, though. So I got a few things I want to cover today. I don't want to spend too much time on question period, but it is fascinating. And what Pierre Poilievre said, quoting a liberal prime minister, when liberals believed more in classical liberalism than they do in woke liberalism today, he said, Canada first, Canada last, Canada always. That means base your policy decisions on what's best for Canada, what's best for Canadians. This is what Justin Trudeau pretends he's doing. He won't say Canada first, though. No, he won't. He will not. He'll talk about Team Canada like it's a hockey team or something. He loves to be evasive. This is great stuff.
Face an unprecedented threat from President Trump's potential tariffs. And what is the state of things here in Canada? Our economy is weakened. Our borders are weakened. Our military is weakened. And most of all, our Prime Minister is weakened. Why can't we have a carbon tax election so Canadians can choose a leader with the brains and backbone to protect our economy and put Canada first?
Now watch this. Do I think Pierre Poilievre has the brains and the backbone to be prime minister? You bet I do. In comparison to Justin Trudeau, yes, he thinks through his responses. And he's got the backbone to stand up and give a measured response to Donald Trump, which Justin Trudeau, he needs another phone call from Trump. He's clearly unhinged in his response, and he's clearly getting the arrogance level up again. Needs another phone call from Trump to chide him.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while the Leader of the Opposition focuses on himself and on me, we're staying focused on Canadians. We're investing in the kinds of things that are going to help people. We stood up for dental care. We stood up to deliver a school foods program. We're moving forward with more spaces of $10 a day childcare, all things that the Conservative Party voted against. But most recently, Mr. Speaker, they've announced they're going to be voting against the GST break for Canadians over the next couple of months. Something that's going to help people at a time where they need that little extra help. But he doesn't care about helping Canadians. He just wants them to suffer more. So maybe he has a chance.
Oh, a petulant schoolboy, or shall I say schoolgirl, a teenage girl who likes to go to Taylor Swift concerts while his hometown of Montreal burns. Embarrassing moment. And of course, watch Poilievre's response here, because he lowers the emotion level way down. So it's like, Justin, calm down, Justin. Just relax, Justin. Listen to how a real leader speaks.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he's lost control of our borders. He's lost control of immigration. He's lost control of spending. That's right. And with that erratic performance, we now see that he's lost control of himself. No wonder foreign leaders believe they can walk all over him. They see him as a weak, incompetent leader who does not even have the support of his own party. Yes. Why won't he put the country first for a change, allow a carbon tax election so Canadians can have a prime minister who will protect this country?
He allows foreign leaders to walk all over him. That triggered Trudeau. You know it did, because up till now, up till the last 3 months, when his leadership's been challenged, his candidate for the President of the United States lost, meaning Vice President Kamala Harris. Donald Trump's back to haunt and scare him and call him up and deliver ultimatums. It's all been a bit of a game for Justin Trudeau. It's all been a bit of a joke, just being prime minister. It's like an acting job. And it's his characteristic insouciance has dominated his responses to everything. And arrogance and narcissism, of course, also play a role in the way he responds to questions in question period or problems. Not challenges, problems. 25% tariff from Donald Trump is not a challenge, Justin Trudeau. It's a problem that you're not prepared to resolve. And it's no longer a game, is it? You can no longer just stand up there and pretend this is all a big joke and you're in control. You've lost control of everything, Justin Trudeau. You're no longer in control.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
You can tell he stood up all night against the mirror trying to practice that line. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, we've got our sleeves rolled up. We are fighting for Canadians every single day. We will stand up.
Who do you think stood in front of the mirror all night rehearsing his lines? Justin Trudeau. And he couldn't get through this without that cliche about rolling his sleeves up.
For good Canadian jobs, we will make sure we continue to have great relations with the United States as we build a stronger future on both sides of the border. We're going to continue to deliver the kinds of things that matter for Canadians. Dental care, free insulin, school food programs, all programs the Conservatives voted against. And now they're going to vote against a GST break for Canadians right across the country for the next few months. That's not being there for Canadians. That's being there for himself.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
just to prove how weak and out of control he's become, he just engaged in a mass hallucination, listing off a bunch of programs that actually don't even exist outside of his own head. But if he's not prepared to stand up for the country when it comes to trade, then why don't we have a real election about taxes? He can run on his tiny 2-month tax trick, and I'll run on my common sense plan to axe the tax and axe the sales tax on new homes. How about a carbon tax election now?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We saw it perfectly clearly just now, the fact that he is trying to gaslight Canadians. He just said that the dental care program, to pick one, doesn't even exist. Well, tell that to the 1 million plus Canadians who've gone to see the dentist.
Because you're pulling that number out of the air. It's not 1 million plus Canadians who have access to your lousy dental care program. But the point here is it's incredible. The country's on the precipice of economic catastrophe. Donald Trump is threatening 25% tariffs if he doesn't get off his ass and do something about the porous border. And Justin Trudeau wants to talk about free lunch programs that don't even exist, dental care programs that nobody can access, and daycare programs. That's what he wants to talk about. The man is not living in the same universe as anybody else.
For the first time in years, because of the Canada Dental Care benefit. This is what he's standing against. He's trying to convince Canadians that everything's broken while he forces his MPs to vote against a GST break that's going to help Canadians over the coming months. That's not leadership. That's pandering to the lowest common denominator.
Whatever that.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has everyone unanimously against him and his so-called Christmas present. Canadians don't want it, business owners don't want it, retirees don't want it, students don't want it, economists don't want it. Even those who are well off and kind-hearted, they don't want it. No one wants the Prime Minister's Christmas gift.
So we'll come back to that in a second. But so Francois Blanchet said, make this a confidence motion. Make this a confidence motion, your GST break. Because they're voting against it. The NDP doesn't know what the hell they're doing, as usual. One day they're for it, one day they're against it. They want old age pensioners included. God knows that Trudeau will cave on that one. Probably could still be looking at a post-Christmas election. God knows we need a snap election. I think I got one more exchange on here.
Weak answer from a weak leader, Mr. Speaker. The reality is he says that people just voluntarily leave when their permits and visas are up. But his minister admitted this week that that is impossible to prove because they don't keep track. And the closest thing they could get to an answer was their department saying estimates from academic sources range from between 20,000 and 500,000 persons, although there may be more. We're talking about people who should not be in our country. So once again, what is the plan?
And of course, there is no plan. Interestingly enough, though, Mexico has a plan. And Doug Ford the other day said, don't compare Canada to Mexico. We're not a borderline third world country with a corrupt government, phony currency. Actually, all of those things could apply to Canada. We do have a corrupt government. The bureaucracy is getting worse. The RCMP, the federal police force, is in the pocket of the Liberal Party. Our currency is down to 68 cents US. It's going to be at 60 cents, believe it or not, very shortly. I don't think it's ever been that low. But yes, we are like Mexico, except Mexico has agreed. Mexico has agreed to seal its border. Mexico said yes. Justin Trudeau is all over the map. We'll do something. We have a plan. I'll have a Zoom call with the premiers over this. That'll fix things. We'll have a Zoom call and everything will be all right.
And now that since the threat happened, he's come up with exactly one response: a Zoom call. He's going to hold a Zoom call tomorrow. Of course, the media is absolutely captivated by this development. There's going to be a Zoom call between 11 or 12 politicians, and somehow this is going to solve the problem. We need a real plan, real action that will defend our economy and our security, and most of all, to put Canada first. First, Mr. Speaker, the debate is over. There can be no tax increases. The tax increases the Prime Minister proposed on work, investment, energy were irresponsible and destructive all along. But now they are economic suicide. Think about the impact that a 61-cent a litre carbon tax would have when the tax is zero south of the border. President Trump has made it clear he wants our jobs and our businesses. You can only imagine his economic development teams calling trucking companies, factories, forestry enterprises, saying, hey, you're facing a 61-cent a litre carbon tax north of the border. Drive 50 kilometers south and we have zero carbon tax. By the way, business and personal taxes are already much lower and will drop further. There will be a powerful sucking sound of jobs, businesses, and...
He's quoting Ross Perot. I haven't heard the giant sucking sound for many years.
...money leaving our country to enrich the United States. This is like a tariff imposed by our own government on our own economy. To say, all of this to say that we need to put our country and our people first. In the words of Laurier, the great motto must be Canada first, Canada last, Canada always.
Now that sums it up. Clearly, there's only one political leader in the House of Commons that's taking this very seriously, that realizes Trump's very serious. We're going to get hit with the 25% tariff if we don't do something. Poilievre has outlined his plan. Cut tax, stop the carbon tax, stop at least the quadrupling of the carbon tax next year to 61 cents a litre, stop the cap on oil and gas production. It's insane. Seal the border. Spend some money in national defense. Look like a credible country. That's Poilievre's advice. I say it's pretty good advice. And it's credible advice, and it's the only advice that's going to work right now. Justin Trudeau doesn't have a clue in hell what he's doing. Now, I want to run through a couple of U.S. stories here because this one just made me furious. And I wrote this story yesterday about North Carolina hurricane victims. The military's left. Now, FEMA is no longer. Of course, FEMA was only there to deliver disaster assistance to people who believe in equity. They were only, and of course, if they saw a Trump supporter with a sign on his front lawn, they bypass that house. Don't deal with those people. I mean, I'm not making this up. This is true. So what's happening? This is what really burned me up when I wrote this story yesterday, is that these people who were given sort of like vouchers to stay in hotels because their homes were destroyed are being kicked out of the hotels in North Carolina because their voucher has expired and they've overstayed their welcome. They're out in the streets, or they're living in tents, or they might get an RV. And if you look in the description, you can see how you can support this RV program, because there's a guy, actually a charity out there, that's giving RVs out to groups of people, or people, as many as he can, because the temperature is getting colder in the more mountainous regions of North Carolina, and people are going to freeze in tents within the next few weeks. And they can't stay in hotels. But yet, illegal immigrants who come to the United States and repay their adopted country, even though they have no right to be there, with murdering, raping, and robbing its citizens are allowed to stay in 5-star hotels in places like New York City. And they've trashed them, of course. But they're allowed to stay in these hotels that used to cater to the creme de la creme, to the upper class. They were very expensive hotels. They've been turned over to migrants, and they're not being turfed out. The city and the state are keeping these people in these 5-star hotels, while people in North Carolina, citizens, are being turfed out of their hotels. This is outrageous. And this is what Joe Biden is going out on. This is Biden's policy to the very end. Or whether or not Joe Biden is even aware that he has a policy anymore, I don't know. But he's the president. He shouldn't be the president. He should have left at the same time he said, I'm not going to run again for a second term. He's not competent. He should not be the president, but he's the president, and this is his responsibility. Now, this is also incredible. Here's how Biden's going out. You wonder how Joe Biden's going out as a lame duck. $24 billion more to Ukraine. $24 billion to Ukraine before he leaves. And you know where that money's going? I found this absolutely fascinating. Directly to the military-industrial complex, directly to armaments manufacturers, so they can produce more arms to give to Ukraine and to replenish, so-called, at least part of the military inventory that the U.S. has given away to Ukraine. So $24 billion to the military-industrial complex. I'm not making this up. Politico was saying the same thing. This money is going, so Congress hasn't done it yet. And we'll see what happens. But here's the plan. Congress approves a $24 billion investment, what a joke, to Ukraine, to the black hole of Kiev. The armaments manufacturers are richer by $24 billion immediately. The stocks go up, and guess who profits? Not just the armaments manufacturers, but those members of Congress who hold stock in companies like Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, McDonnell Douglas, Boeing, on and on. The list goes on. There's about 8 big ones. We're profiting from the war in Ukraine. So Congress gives them the money, and it's like they literally kick it back in terms of stock dividends. So this is a corrupt, disgusting procedure that promotes endless wars. And you're seeing it happen right now at the very end of Joe Biden's regime. That's how he wants to go out. Now, if we still have time, fascinating story here. You might remember Lieutenant Colonel Vindman was the jackass who appeared in Trump's impeachment trial and claimed he was a whistleblower, and it was all BS.
Putin has a type. He likes narcissists and egomaniacs that he knows as a case officer he could easily pander to and manipulate to do his dirty work. We are under attack. Russia has been using different levers, whether that's corruption networks. In this case, it's influencers like Donald Trump, like Elon Musk, to really kind of sow discord. And it's particularly troubling with Elon Musk in this case because Elon Musk has access to state secrets. He has top secret security clearance. It's possible that some of that is seeping through. Putin has been very effective in playing both Trump and Elon, and he's been using the richest man in the world to do his bidding. In some cases, that's encouraging him to probably.
Okay, the bullshit keeps coming out of this fat man's mouth. Look at this pudgy former lieutenant colonel who had his ass hauled out of the National Security Agency after he decided he was a whistleblower who had nothing to blow about. So now he's saying Elon Musk is a Russian agent. Do you believe this? It's happening again? I don't believe it's happening again. Anyway, let's listen to a little more of Alexander Vindman, who is a disgrace to his uniform.
To support Donald Trump. That's not speculation. We see how far in Elon has gone. And then using Twitter as a disinformation platform. So this is not some sort of far off, distant threat. This is going to impact our elections. It's a national security threat.
You talked about Putin's type, including Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Say more, because it also includes Tucker Carlson, who has a bizarre fetish with daddy spanking a little girl, something he said in public from a podium this week. And
whether that's corruption network.
Say more, because it also includes Tucker Carlson.
Are under attack. Russia has been.
This is absolute nonsense coming from MSNBC, the usual suspects. These people are all going to lose their jobs. MSNBC is going down the tube. But they continue to spew this nonsense.
Who has a bizarre belief and worldview that women should stay in violent marriages. Talk about why these men just happen, maybe coincidentally, to also parrot Putin's talking points when it comes to the war in Ukraine.
Well, it's not really coincidental. I mean, we're talking about a very practiced KGB case officer. He served through the rank of lieutenant colonel as a case officer. And in that capacity, he was trained to suss out the vulnerabilities, the weaknesses, the ways to engage his target, his agents. And he's using Trump and Elon as his agents. And in this case, he's just using their own egos, their own vanities. The fact that, by engaging with Putin, they're feeding their egos to manipulate them and message them. These guys are not particularly skilled in.
I mean, give me a break. This guy is out of the military. He knows absolutely diddly squat about anything he's talking about. He is completely fabricating this because, once again, it's the Russian hoax. They love to play this. And what has Vindman been up to? Did he profit from the war in Ukraine? He's the guy that wants this to continue. Let's have a look at this. Whoop. So Vindman is on the payroll of Ukrainian oligarchs and has committed treason against the United States, for which he will pay the appropriate penalty. Very, very interesting. And I think we also have a clip here. Let me see if I can find that. No, I'm sorry. I can't. I thought I had, because as you know, I write for Human Events, and Jack Posobiec has written a piece outlining how Alexander Vindman has been profiting from the war in Ukraine. It's really incredible material. And this is the news. This is why Vindman became a whistleblower and wanted Donald Trump impeached. Because Donald Trump did not want an endless war in Ukraine. Joe Biden does. Kamala Harris does. The Democratic Party still does.
So for this individual, Alexander Vindman, who played a massive, dare I say, outsized role in the fomentation of this war, he helped start the Ukraine war. And now he's trying to profit from it. Documents recently obtained by Human Events exclusively show that Alexander Vindman has been pitching the government of Ukraine to obtain lucrative defense contracts. In August of 2022, just a few months into the war, Vindman himself, operating as CEO of Trident Support, pitched a deck on a Ukraine weapons system sustainment center to address problems with Ukraine's weapons management, namely readiness, repair, and maintenance. Vindman's initial proposal was for $12 million, according to these documents, in initial funding for his company. This is war profiteering. The idea behind the proposal is that Trident Support would be a middleman between NATO weapons and Ukrainian forces, teaching the latter how to operate and repair the equipment while taking an exorbitant fee from Ukraine to do so. When you're talking about the tanks, when you're talking about the vehicles, when you're talking about the weapons, the systems, the night vision, everything, all the technology that's being sent over to Ukraine. Of course, Alexander Vindman is thinking, how can I get a slice of that pie? Here in DC, we call that being a beltway bandit. But what he's doing is even further than that. Because keep in mind, this is the same Alexander Vindman who was once offered the role of defense minister for all of Ukraine, head of the entire Ukrainian military. And what do we see here? He started the war, and now he is trying to profit from the very war itself. And keep in mind that with the billions of dollars that the United States is sending over, the U.S. taxpayer would be the one ultimately footing the bill for all of this. They're the ones that are actually trying to be paid, or funding this payment for Zelensky. He's the one, Vindman. He's the one who's trying to profit. You see, this is exactly what happens in every war, folks. You get people in the middle who say, how can I get a slice? How can I get a piece of it? War is a racket. And President Eisenhower warned us as a country in his final address that these types of people, these types of forces, the financial pressures of the military-industrial complex would rise again and again as we go abroad seeking monsters, finding them, and then deciding to go and fight them. We just did this entire special last Sunday, Ukrainistan, and you look at some of this. You look at these documents. What he's talking about is bringing American defense contractors and veterans into Ukraine to set up sustainment centers and logistics centers. Well, if you're the Russian military and you find out that all of these tanks and all of these vehicles can only be sustained at a few places, where do you think you're going to send your cruise missiles next? And then what happens if it's American citizens that are killed in the strike?
Incredible. That's what's happening here. Now, I want to leave you with, again, I wanted to show you this. I think it's very important. This Christmas, and don't forget the Krayden's Right merchandise store. Thanks for watching today, folks, and I really appreciate your support. It is so welcomed. And thank you for watching again. I'll be back again tomorrow with all the news you need to know, at least most of it. And let's continue to resist, folks. We need to do that more than ever. These are really difficult, not challenging, difficult times. And they are requiring very steely backbones.